A British submarine, a sinking ship, and a global conspiracy. This cannot be true, can it?
Hi, I'm Allie. I'm running on 3 espressos and an alarming amount of curiosity today.
And I'm Brianne. I've had 1 tea and a healthy dose of skepticism. We are balanced.
Also, I had a croissant the size of a small moon. Anyway, welcome to the Veil. Unsolved and Unbelievable. Okay, here's what went down today. We're talking about the Falklands War and the sinking of the Argentine cruiser ARA General Belgrano by the British submarine HMS Conqueror in 1982.
Conspiracy alert. Or, hear me out, a wartime decision in a messy, undeclared conflict. Sorry, not sorry.
Back to the story. Quick refresher. The Falklands War was a 10-week, undeclared conflict in 1982 between Argentina and the UK over the Falklands and nearby islands. Argentina invaded in April 1982. Governor Rex Hunt mounted a brief defense and surrendered. The UN Security Council passed Resolution 502 in early April, demanding Argentine withdrawal and giving London diplomatic cover under self-defense. Then Britain launched Operation Corporate. 2 carriers, escorts, and a whole armada sailing south within days. They retook South Georgia in late April after disabling the submarine ARA Santa Fe. Thatcher famously said to just rejoice at that news. Then came the air war. Britain declared a total exclusion zone at the end of April. In early May, you had the RAF's Black Buck 1 strike on Stanley Airfield from Ascension. An insanely long mission. Sea Harriers started tangling with Argentine jets, and on 4 May, HMS Sheffield was hit by an Exocet and later sank. It was the first Royal Navy warship lost in action since the early 1900s. A brutal week. And in the middle of that, in early May 1982, HMS Conqueror fired 2 torpedoes into General Belgrano outside the total exclusion zone. The cruiser went down and over 300 lives were lost. After that, the Argentine surface fleet mostly stayed in port. That single act reshaped the entire campaign.
Which brings us to today's mystery. Was that sinking a trap or an ugly but straightforward wartime call? I'm already making the face. You know the one.
Here's the deal. I have a theory. The Belgrano sinking wasn't just self-defense in the moment. It was the endgame of a deliberate entrapment plan. London, the War Cabinet, and covert allies shaped a battle space so Belgrano would enter a pre-selected kill box outside the zone, while public talk about the exclusion zone kept everyone looking the other way.
So let me get this straight. A plan to lure a cruiser beyond a publicity line, then hit it while pretending the line mattered. Bold, also a bit cinematic.
Okay, so check this out. First, the War Cabinet met daily from early April in a tiny room, making fast decisions, and Margaret Thatcher was decisive once a course was set. Second, British submarines were the linchpin from day one. SSNs out of Gibraltar and Scotland sprinted south in late March and early April and shadowed Argentine groups. By early May, HMS Conqueror already had Belgrano in her sights. Third, the UK had just expanded to a total exclusion zone at the end of April. That was public diplomacy. Zones are politics, submarines are reality. Now stir in covert eyes. British and Chilean cooperation is on record. Operation Fingent placed a Marconi radar in Tierra del Fuego with RAF personnel in civilian clothes, and a U.S.-supplied SATCOM link in Santiago under Operation Shutter provided feeds of southern Argentine air and naval activity. You don't install a secret radar on the far shore unless you're mapping the chessboard for something specific.
Or unless you like not being surprised by aircraft. That is literally what radars are for. Sorry, not sorry.
Sure, but listen to the timing. By early May, British commanders feared a pincer, Belgrano's group to the south and the carrier group to the north. The War Cabinet authorized attack outside the exclusion zone. Conqueror fired. Belgrano sank. And the same night Royal Navy Lynx helicopters hit the patrol boat Alferez Sobral with Sea Skua missiles. This was not a timid wait inside the lines day. It looks like a go order once the pieces were right. There's an anecdote that stuck with me. A junior watchkeeper later described working in a windowless room, watching plots coming in from friendly shores. A liaison who never used his real name, and the night before the attack, a small star penciled on a trace with a note reading, pincer assessed active. Then a chill practiced signal, and afterwards someone in a tweed jacket saying, "Zones are for newspapers. Intent is for war rooms." That sounds like people waiting for a pre-selected moment, not improvising on the fly.
Call BS on the star bit, not because it couldn't be true, but because anonymous recollections plus decades of hindsight make for spicy stories. Let's ground this. Argentina invaded in April 1982. UNSC 502 condemned that, and the UK had legal and operational reasons to act in self-defence. The exclusion zone was a warning, not a sacred boundary. Striking outside it was explicitly on the table from the start. You don't need an entrapment legal trick.
But why the insistence on operating outside the exclusion zone? Because it muddies press narratives. It lets London say, "We warned you," and then act where the enemy thinks they are safer. Plus, Captain Hector Bonzo, Belgrano's skipper, later said in 2003 they were maneuvering under orders to sink British ships if possible. The perfect cover story for an engagement London wanted anyway. The British case is stronger if the target is demonstrably a threat.
Or hear me out, it's exactly what it looks like. An enemy cruiser group posing a pincer threat. Bonzo says he had attack orders. The UK believed the carrier group in the north was moving. The War Cabinet authorises Conqueror, torpedoes away. Ugly, but not a trap. The aftermath supports that straightforward reading. After Belgrano goes down, the Argentine surface fleet largely stays in port because British submarines are terrifying. That's a consequence of risk, not proof of a 4D chess plot.
Back to the facts. Removing Belgrano did more than scare ships. It freed British submarines to sit along the Argentine coast for early warning of air raids, and opened the door for the amphibious phase. If that outcome is so perfect, are we really saying it was pure luck that the cruiser was right where Conqueror could hit her, right when London needed momentum, and Sheffield would be hit a couple of days later? I don't buy pure luck. I think they nudged the board. Covert Chilean radar feeds, the exclusion zone as misdirection, subs quietly corralling the southern group.
So let's push the logic. If it was entrapment, why bother with the exclusion zone at all? The UK never said the zone limited their right to self-defence. It was a political warning to third parties and a way to communicate escalation thresholds. Also, the idea that press reports panicked Argentina into rash moves is undercut by research showing the invasion decision was made in late March. They were not puppets on British strings. They had their own timelines and miscalculations.
Totally. I'm not saying Argentina was tricked into invading. I'm saying once the war started, London shaped the sea picture so a southern cruiser force would be within reach at a politically expedient moment. Remember, the British lacked airborne early warning and were vulnerable to low-level attacks. Removing the surface threat bought time while Sea Harriers carried the air defense load. The War Cabinet had every incentive to make that kill happen when it would cascade into maximum advantage.
We come back to the evidence bar. There is motive, sure, and capabilities. Submarines, covert Chilean help, daily War Cabinet meetings. But there isn't a document saying, trap set for grid X at hour Y. What we do have is a clear operational picture, a genuine pincer risk, a lawful self-defence frame under UNSC 502, and Captain Bonzo confirming offensive intent. The simplest explanation holds.
Here's where I land. My theory is plausible because the dots line up. The exclusion zone was established at the end of April. Covert radar and SATCOM were in play. The southern group was tracked. The War Cabinet greenlit action outside the zone in early May, and the same night saw aggressive strikes like the Sea Skua attack on Sobral. The strategic payoff followed. It looks less like a one-off and more like the finish of a plan. Zones are for newspapers. Intent is for war rooms. I think someone said the quiet part out loud in that windowless room.
And I stick with the conventional reading. Imminent threat plus lawful self-defence. No need for entrapment. Also, brains love patterns. Draw a star on a map, and 20 years later, it becomes destiny. Add in grief, pride, politics, and the story hardens. The point is, extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof. I'm still waiting.
The greater question for both of us is how we tell what is true through the fog of war and time. For me, it's pattern plus motive plus those weird first-hand crumbs that won't go away. And a willingness to say, maybe.
For me, it's sources, context, and boring plausibility. If two explanations fit, pick the one that needs the fewest invisible men in tweed jackets, but keep an open file in case new documents surface.
If you want the deep dive, grab Lawrence Friedman's History of the Falklands War. It's meticulous and will give you the full picture around Belgrano and beyond.
Moving right along, plans for the rest of the day. I'm making another tea and reading declassified memos like a normal person.
I'm going to rewatch a documentary and text you screenshots of submarine tracks. You know, for balance. Thank you for listening. Send us your take. Trap or not. And as always, question the stories you are told and the ones you tell yourself.